I call on Mr Finn to move his motion number 794. Mr Finn.
Thank you, Mr Acting President. I move that this House, 1, expresses its strong support for the protection of childhood innocence, 2, deplores the sexualisation of primary school-aged children by programs within the Victorian education curriculum, and 3, calls on the Minister for Education to replace programs responsible for early sexualisation of prepubescent children with more age-appropriate human development programs. Mr Acting President, I have always regarded childhood as possibly the most magical time of anyone's life. There have been times, particularly of late in this place, I wish in fact that I had never left childhood. But what I like to see is that kids have a childhood that they enjoy, that enhances their what they have to look forward to. You know, I look back on my childhood with a great deal of great fond memories. You know, and back on the farm down near Colac all those years ago, and that is a very important part of my life to remember that. And I think that we must protect the innocence of childhood for each and every single child in the state. I think it is a basic responsibility of every member of this House, but I think it's a basic responsibility of every adult, because it's my view that every adult has a duty to protect children. Every adult. And I spend a lot of my time fighting for kids. I see what's happening in the state at the moment, the sexualisation of kids in primary school, to be something that we cannot allow to continue. It is not only destroying kids' childhoods, but it's also providing them with a very perverse outlook on life from that point on, because childhood does provide a base for where we grow. Into adolescence, into adulthood. And what's happening at the moment is something that cannot be allowed to continue. Now, I had heard stories about some of the things that had been going on in the classrooms for the last 4 or 5 years anyway. And I sort of thought they may have been a bit exaggerated, to tell you the truth. I didn't quite believe it. But I had a note from a constituent, and I raised this in the Parliament on the adjournment earlier this year, and she told me, this particular constituent from Sunbury, told me of her 10-year-old girl who came home from school extremely upset, extremely distressed, and she went straight to her room. She didn't want to talk to anybody, she didn't want to see anybody. She just went straight to her room, shut the door, and stayed there. Now, this went on for some hours until her mum decided that she would, find out what was going on. So she went in and she sat on the bed with her 10-year-old daughter, and she said, "What's been going on? Why are you upset?" What the 10-year-old daughter told her mum shocked her mum, and has subsequently shocked me and many, I think hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Australians since. The 10-year-old girl told her mum that she, at school, had been told as homework to go home and ask her father about his erections and ejaculation. I'll say that again because it's I think worth repeating. A 10-year-old girl who lives not far from where I do, was asked by her teacher to go home and ask her father about his erections and his ejaculations. Is it any wonder this poor little kid was as distressed as she was? I don't believe this is a one-off. Not at all. Not at all. And it's just extraordinary that we have a situation where this would happen to even one kid, much less it be widespread. Now, the minister got back to me, which was very nice of him. Some ministers don't bother on the adjournment, but Minister Molino did. Perhaps it's the faction he's in, Mr. Well, he should be sound. He should be sound. I suspect that the answer that has been provided to me as a result of me raising this matter was written by a bureaucrat, who was possibly a lefty. I don't know, but he thanked me for my question regarding puberty education, as they call it. Well, fair income, if that's puberty education, I just shake my head in disbelief. You fear to think what's coming next. Indeed, I do fear to think what's coming next. And I should point out that I'm only talking today about primary school age kids. We could talk about what happens in secondary schools, and that would fair income curl even my hair. That would curl anybody's hair. Just quite extraordinary. The answer that's provided by the minister says that age-appropriate education on sexuality and puberty is an important component of the health and physical education curriculum. Well, I agree with that. I agree with that. It is an important part, and that's why I am moving this motion today, because I want to see that happen. I actually want to see that happen. I want to see age-appropriate programs for human development. I want to see that. I don't want to see kids exposed to concepts, to ideas, to suggestions that horrify them, that shock them, that send them into a state of trauma. I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. The minister goes on, teaching students about their bodies, brains, relationships and health with evidence-based programs appropriate for their development and led by a trusted source is important before they discover potential misinformation surrounding these topics online or in the playground. Well, I have one question. To that statement, I have one question. What about the parents? What about the parents? Isn't it their right to inform their children in the way they feel necessary about these sorts of things? For an education system to try to usurp the role of parents in this particular way, I think is despicable. I think it is despicable, and I think it is something that none of us in a free society should be happy to allow. The minister goes on. For classroom-based activities and suggested homework in the Department of Education and Training's Sexuality Education Teaching Resource, Catching On Early, do not include a task that directs students to discuss erections and ejaculation with their parents. Well, Minister, it may not include a task to direct students to discuss erections and ejaculations with their parents, or indeed their father on this particular occasion, but Minister, it's happening. This has happened. This has happened. Minister, the minister cannot be in denial on this. This has happened. It's happened at a school in Sunbury, about 35, 40 minutes from here. It's happened. And a child has been taken out of that school now and is being homeschooled as a result of what occurred to her. What occurred to her. The minister goes on, amongst other things, using the Catching On Early teaching resource is not compulsory, and parents are able to remove their children from these lessons if they wish. He should have said, if they know, because I will put money down that most parents won't know. They will not be aware of what their kids are being taught in some of these classes. And let me tell you, the kids would be too embarrassed to come home and to tell their parents. They would cringe. They would cringe at the thought of sitting down with their mum and dad and telling them what they had been taught at school today in these particular classes. So the parents ain't going to find out. Very hard for the parents to get involved and indeed to take the child out if they don't know. And that is a simple fact of life. It's a simple fact of life. And I just shake my head. I just shake my head almost with fury at the thought of these children being abused being abused. This is child abuse, absolutely, by a system that is promoting its own political ideology ahead of kids' welfare. What sort of government does that? How can we allow that to happen? Well, it is happening. It's happening every day. And it's something that, quite frankly, we must, as a parliament, stand up and say no. We will protect our kids. We will protect our children. We will let kids be kids. We will let kids enjoy their childhood for as long as they possibly can. As one parent said to me just this week, you know, my daughter, as it was in this case, she knows all about genders, you know, all the 73 genders. She knows about how she can change her own gender. 76 has gone up, has it? Okay, fair enough. That's inflation for you. She knows all about these genders that we're on about, but she doesn't know the capital of New South Wales. She doesn't know the capital of Queensland. She can barely read, she can barely write, but she knows how to change her gender. All this from a primary school. Well, the priorities of this government, no doubt about that. There is gender confusion overload. That's what it is. That's what it is. These kids, they go to school, the little boys are told by their teachers that they might be little girls. Have you ever thought about that? You could be a little boy. Well, I do live in a binary world. Yes, I do. I do, absolutely. And the little girls are told that they might be little boys. So between the two of them, nobody...
It's like Section 30, subsection 4. There's a grey area.
It is a grey area. Well, apparently so. Apparently so, Mr. Somira. I just find the destruction of childhood in this way to be an act of criminality. I think it is appalling. I think it is appalling. And it's something that this parliament, I believe, should address as a matter of urgency. You know, from daycare right through to year 12, children are being taught to explore and to play with their sexual orientation and gender identity. Is it any wonder we have major mental health issues with kids in the state? They go to school, and from the stage of 5 or 6, they're being told they might be something that they're not. You know, they've been a little boy up until that time, and they might be a little girl. They're being told this at school. When they get a bit older, they're told that they're all going to die because of climate change. Is it any wonder? Is it any wonder that these kids have mental health issues? And to think that these issues, that this problem is being promoted within our schools, I think is despicable. It is a disgrace. And it's something this government must act on. It must act on. It must put its ratbag ideologies to one side, and it must put the welfare of children as its number one priority. It must. Because to have neutral health-based education replaced with age-inappropriate, erotic sexual materials that encourage high-risk sexual behaviours is not on. Is not on. And this is happening in primary schools. God help the kids when they get to secondary school. The view that is promoted to them is that their sexual orientation is fluid and changeable, and that they should explore different sexualities. Strike me pink. Your average 7-year-old wouldn't know which way was up. What hope have these kids got when they're taught this nonsense? What hope have they got? They're told to view heteronormality, the prevalence of heterosexuality in society, as negative. As negative. Why would they do that? I mean, this is part of an ideology that is harming them in a very, very big way. Very, very big way. And they are taught that consent and legal age are the two main considerations when pursuing sex. So it doesn't matter, what dangers it may propose or may offer along the way. It doesn't matter any of those sorts of things. Get out there and into it. As long as you consent and as long as you're within the age limits, you can do whatever you like. Now, I'm not sure there are all that many parents who'd be thrilled with that. And the kids are being subject to this from a very, very early age. It's just, as I say, I shake my head in disbelief, but it's true. It's true. Now, I would have loved today to have had the mum and her daughter, who I spoke of earlier, here in the chamber. Unfortunately, they've come down with one of the multitude of lurgies, I was going to say the logies, one of the multitude of lurgies that is now engulfing our city, and they can't be here. But they were going to be in the gallery, and members would have been able to go up and have a chat to them and explain that this is not exactly something that I have made up by myself. This is something that's actually happened. This is something that I've come across in the course of my duties as a local member of parliament in the Western Metropolitan area. And I tell you what, the horror, the shock that went through the community when I first raised this matter in April told me that people don't want this to happen. They do not want this to happen. Mr. Mellom, they don't want this to happen. Parents do not want their kids abused in this way. And this is, as I say, this is child abuse. This is horrifying. This is horrifying. We are not talking about even adolescents. We're not even talking about teenagers. We're talking about kids in primary school, for God's sake. What could possibly possess any right-thinking person to regard this as being a normal, reasonable practice? What indeed? We know there are ideological extremists out there. We know that they have largely captured certain parts of the government. We know all that, but people like James Merlino, the minister, he surely can't support this. I've always regarded him as a pretty decent sort of bloke. Well, yes. The party sadly is run by the left, and it is very much the loony left. It's the extremist left. It's the loony left that we are dealing with here, and they don't care if they destroy the lives of kids. They don't care if kids are in psychoanalysis for the next 20 years to recover from their primary education. All these nutbags in the left want is to promote their ideology. All they want to do is to promote their way of life or what they think everybody should be doing. And that is the simple fact of the matter. They don't care about the kids. And in education, the kids should be everything. The kids should be number 1, 2 and 3. Always. But these people, they don't care. They just don't care about the kids. They don't care that the kids are having nervous breakdowns. They don't care that the kids have completely lost interest in school because they can't handle some of this absolutely outrageous material that they're being subject to. They don't care about the kids. They certainly don't care about the parents because they're actively promoting the parents and the children being in different places. They're actively promoting that because they know if they can do that, they can control the kids. They can control everything that the kid learns. And that is a horrifying situation. And as a parent and as a responsible adult, I intend to do something about it. Today, I urge members to support this motion. But today is not the end. Today is just the beginning. It is just the beginning. Because this is a fight that we must have, and this is a fight that we must win because it's for our kids. It's for our kids. And our kids are worth fighting for. Every kid in this state is worth fighting for. And I tell you one thing, I am not going to go away on this. Whether this motion is carried or not carried today, I will not be going away. I'll be back on this because this is a fight we will have and win.